All right, so we got another podcast here leading into Easter, and today I'm joined by Ali Devine. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
A lot of people see you on stage if they attend Grace. You host pretty regularly. You're a big presence on Instagram. You run our social media, so they probably engage with you that way. But I would love to, before we get started on our topic of discussion, want to just get to know Ali a little bit.
Oh boy. Okay.
So, tell us a little bit about you. What? Let's start with the fun stuff. What do you do for fun?
Ooh, we have a 1-year-old golden retriever.
Okay.
And so
That's fun.
Now it's fun. It wasn't quite fun a little while ago, but now we're having a lot of fun. But yeah, just a lot of outdoor activities with him, like taking him to the river or the lake, and just like to be outside.
And what's your position at Grace? What do you do here?
I'm communications and content creation.
Cool.
Yeah.
Love that. And so we're going to be talking about a subject today involving kind of the main theme of Easter, death to life, new things, a new beginning, a fresh start. And as we lead into Easter, we process through a lot of things. We process through the story of Christ going to the cross, what that means for us, what him shedding his blood means for us. We process and we celebrate on Sunday the resurrection and what that means for us and the life that we get to live based off of that belief. And so want to just kind of hover around that. And as we do that, talk a little bit about your story. Because you raised at Grace, as a kid, you came to Grace, and then what happened?
Yeah, I started coming to Grace when I was in high school. I just got invited by some friends, and we were plugged into student ministry. And yeah, it was all about kind of coming with friends. But I did know Jesus from a really young age. That's how I grew up. But I never grew up coming to church. That was kind of choices that I was making, and my sister and friends and things like that. So I kind of did grow up with, at least through high school ministry at Grace. And then I went to college in Southern California, and every time I would come home and visit family, like for summer or Christmas break or whatever, I'd always make sure to come to Grace on a Sunday.
Yeah. What brought you back? Why would you come back? You're gone for months at a time, and then you said you come home and you're like, I got to go to Grace on Sunday.
This place is home, you know? It's not like I was super completely rooted and connected in groups or serving in major ways or anything like that. It just was home. I was drawn to the message, drawn to the people, drawn to the community and worship. And it was always a priority when I came home.
Yeah. And speaking of coming home, you kind of led the branding charge for that home initiative we had a while back. And you see home team, all of that. It's a big deal for you. It's a big deal for Grace now. And a lot of that's because of your story and what Christ has done in you. So you're away at school. How old are you? You're what, 18, 19, 20, college age. You're away at school. Like you said, you came to Grace. You knew about Jesus, but you weren't rooted. Put it that way. Like you probably, like a lot of people who are part of the church, like, yeah, I like Jesus. I like the people. I like going. It's fun. The worship's fun. The sermon's fun. He makes a joke every once in a while. It's fun. There's like this surface level. And then what would you say was like the changing moment for you? Like you went from it just being something that was a part of my life to now my relationship with Christ consumes my life.
A huge part of my story is when I was down at school, my junior year of college, me and a couple teammates, I played golf in college. So me and a couple teammates were out at just kind of a college hangout spot. We'd do line dancing and things like that. And one night when we were there, there was an active shooter that came. And we were involved in a mass shooting. 12 people lost their lives that night. And all of me and my friends all made it out. I had sliced my finger on some glass, and we had jumped out of a second-story window to get out, and I was in the hospital like immediately after. Friends come and pick us up, and I was on the phone with my parents, and they didn't quite have a grasp on what was really happening and that kind of thing, because I was down in Southern California and they're in Reno.
Yeah.
So that was a huge, huge next part of my journey that I had no idea that kind of trauma and anxiety and things that I would have to walk in. I didn't grow up with anything like
Yeah.
that. I'd never been to therapy a day in my life.
Yeah.
So I was working hard, finishing out school and trying to graduate and in therapy so many times a week.
Yeah.
And the pivotal moment, I was in my dorm room and just in pieces, completely shattered, stripped of any identity that I thought I had.
Yeah.
Through college and through golf and competing and being top of my team and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's when God spoke very clearly for the very first time. He said, "You are not alone." And that was the turning point.
Yeah.
I became a child of God in a very real and new way.
Yeah. You said you were surviving, and I mean, it's reasonable. That is a traumatic thing, and I'm sure it still is hard today. Like, surviving, just getting through, kind of make it to the next day. How was it hearing that you're not alone? Did you feel alone before that? Did you feel like nobody was there for you? What did that feel like?
What was interesting is after the initial, everybody knew that I was there, and my team and my coaches and my friends were all surrounding me and holding me up. And after several weeks and months started going by, it was really just the true ones, like calling my parents, calling my now husband Cameron, but they're in Reno.
Yeah,
calling
they're a long ways
coaches,
away.
calling coaches when I needed them. Having lots of times where I'd walk back from class because I couldn't make it through.
Wow.
That was very, very lonely.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how lonely it was until God spoke that over.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's beautiful. It's such a story of redemption. It fits with the story of Easter, something that's just so horrific and hard to even process. Even from the outsider like myself, hearing your story, I have a hard time even processing it, and even understanding the depth of what you felt in that, not just in the moment, but the weeks, months that passed. And then Jesus speaks this into your life. You move back to Reno. What begins to happen then? What begins to happen in your life?
Oh, I was relearning, I wasn't just trying to make it through the next golf tournament. I wasn't just trying to make it to graduation or the next final. I moved home, moved back in with my parents, and just relearned how to have fun.
Yeah.
Relearned how to engage with God. We started Rooted at the end of that summer, which is a way to become rooted in your faith and in your church and in the Bible. It's a great Bible study that we have here. So toward the end of summer, I needed to get a job. I just graduated and
You got out of school?
Yes.
Now, what
now,
next?
what do you do?
Yeah.
The ultimate question. I had stopped going to therapy really to just take a breather.
Yeah.
Cleaning out those kinds of wounds is hard
Painful.
work.
Yeah.
And so toward the end of summer, it was, time to get it together. And I found an amazing therapist who helped me kind of process in a very real way and different way where I didn't feel like I was in survival mode anymore. He was another big turning point. That was about the same time that we had started Rooted, and I really started looking for a job.
Yeah.
And months were going by where, looking for a job was my full-time job and nothing was working.
Yeah.
Nothing was going through. My whole Rooted group would pray for me every single week of, yep, nothing is coming. Not quite sure where I'm supposed to go.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to head straight into graphic design and applied to lots of different agencies around town, outside Reno, and that kind of thing. It got brought home.
Yeah.
I started serving at Grace on a Sunday because I just needed
to be back
more
home.
way to get connected and to have community. So I served on production team for one Sunday. And I had no idea anything about production equipment, but I figured if I'm a graphic designer, I could do it. It's nothing like graphic design, but it's okay. The people were so nice and so welcoming, and I met a bunch of great people. And the production lead said, I think you should talk to Karen, because he asked me what my situation was if I was working. And I said, this is what I do and this is what I'm trying to do, but not quite sure where I'm supposed to go.
Yeah.
He said, you got to talk to Karen.
Yeah.
And so I interviewed with Karen that Sunday afternoon in between services and was offered a job at Grace Church the next day.
It's amazing. That's how it all works out. So you go from high school Ali attending high school group. You said mostly for the social experience.
Oh, yeah.
You knew Jesus, but you know how it is, you know. You go to school. You face tragedy at the max level. You process through that. You come home. And you come home again to grace, where kind of this journey started. I think it's such a beautiful story of God taking something horrible that, you know, we can't even fathom or process through, taking that and it bringing you to a place of getting the opportunity to serve him every day, to worship him with your skills every day. I just think it's a great coming home story, you know, and I think it ties to the resurrection because something that was dead, Christ died on the cross and then resurrects, comes to life, bringing life for us. Your story is the same, right? Like you said the word surviving. You were in a season of survival. You could put a season of darkness, season of death there. And now I look at you now and you're so life-giving. You light up every room you walk into.
Oh, thank you.
What's that transformation been like? What is Jesus like? How do you go from someone who struggled with this horrific thing to being happy, brighten up the room, loving Ali? How does that happen?
You know, it's how God has used that and shaped my identity through that, because that was something that I had identified as growing up, was I wanted to be the bubbly one, and I wanted everyone to know my name, and I wanted them to know that I'm competitive and all this stuff. And so for God to use this season of just being so shaken and growing me in more humility and more depth, especially through love for him and who he is. It's just all amazing. It's so good.
We had the same bubbly personality, but it used to be so everybody knows me. Now you got the same bubbly personality so everybody knows him.
Yes, exactly.
You know, and he took you on that journey. It's beautiful. Maybe there's someone watching right now who's in a hard season. They're facing maybe not to the scale, or maybe it is something that you've battled through. If you're going to give any advice, what should they do? Like, they're watching right now, they're processing through this hard season in their life. What should they do right at the moment, right now, when they're done watching this? What's the first thing they should do?
They can drop the frustration of thinking nobody knows the darkness that they're going through. That was something that I faced really hard, is nobody got it. Nobody knew. And as soon as you drop that and invite God into that darkness, you know, it can change. So in this moment, what you can do is just invite him in. Tell somebody that you're inviting him in. And just let him work through that. Beautiful. Instead of holding on so close to it.
It's beautiful. It's like, it's interesting. We do this all the time. We have all these dark areas in our life, these hard areas. Sometimes it's hurts. Sometimes it's sin issues. Sometimes it's shame from past sins. We have these dark areas, and those are the areas we try to keep away from Jesus. We're like, no, that's not my Christian life. That's it. So I need this separate. I need this off on its own so I can keep presenting this right Christian life, or this, I got it all together. I know what I'm doing. When the truth is, those are the areas we need Jesus to move the most in. And it takes boldness to say, okay, here I am. Jesus, like, he knows it anyway, but somehow we believe the lie that we can hide from him, like Adam and Eve. You know, the sin enters the world, they're hiding from God. You know, we think the same thing. He knows us inside and out, but it's hard for us to talk about that. I think what you're saying, bring that darkness, bring the hardship, bring the brokenness, bring the sin, you know, and just call it what it is. Here's the stuff I struggle with. I need Jesus to move. I think if more people did that and just authentically said, here's 100% of me, Jesus, not the 50% I want you to see, I think we'd see more radical breakthroughs like we've seen in your life and your story, right?
Yeah, definitely. Something I hold close with that sort of lines up with the Adam and Eve and their story is when God walks back into the garden and he asks them, where are you? God knows. God knows exactly where you are, but he's not asking physical location. And that's something that I use as a reminder a lot, is God knows it. It's just, it's up to you.
I think this is important to dive in. He's asking because for the first time, they need to acknowledge where they are.
Yeah, exactly.
They need to acknowledge where they are with God. And that's what we have to do as well. It's exactly what you're saying. Thanks for sharing. I think there's going to be someone watching this who's just going to be able to relate to your coming home experience, to your hardship into life experience. And my prayer is that it helps somebody process through that, at least get to the open place like we're talking about. Like here's the stuff. But why don't we close out every one of these with just you praying. And so if you could just pray for maybe that one person who's watching, who's like, yeah, I got some darkness. I got some sin. I need boldness to be truthful about it. I need boldness to bring it before Jesus. You mind just praying for that?
Yes, I'd love to. Father God, thank you for your mightiness and your character and the way that you reveal yourself to each and every one of your children in your divine way. I just pray for the one listening who knows that darkness, who is in that place of just in a valley, God. I just pray that you would nudge their heart in a new way to encourage them to be bold and to acknowledge their need for you. And I pray that over myself also as we continue in this journey. You know, God, we haven't made it. And we look to you to fill in so many gaps, our perfect God. I just pray for the people who are just craving the light and the hope and the life that you bring, God. I just ask that you would move in a new way. Just assure them, God, bring comfort where they need it, to know that you are good and to know that you have finished the story out before it even began. We love you and we trust you and we look to you to celebrate the mercies that you have for us every single day. We love you in your son's name. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Ali.
Thanks so much, Shane.